It's really interesting comparing the paradigm of this AI movement with all the other technology movements in the past. Y'all have weathered a lot of different technology movements. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about are these technologies solving real problems for your engineering orgs today, and what types of problems are you trying to give these AI tools to solve now? And how close are you to other types of problems that you're interested in having it solve?
I think right now it's like the LLM based AI models of like asking questions has quickly become everyone is expected to do this. If you don't do this, you're behind. So that world went by really quickly and really easily. The next one is the generative AI for code, and like, can you generate usable code? And there's the mix of today it is spaghetti. Today it isn't like it can't write excellent, high quality, senior engineer level 7, code. It's just not there yet, but it can do a lot of stuff along its way. Mm-hmm. I think it will get there, and it will be helpful, but we're still feeling it out. And when you look at the companies like producing new models, it feels like every week or two there's another one out there. I think it's rapidly becoming, and a lot of these companies I think they're losing money on every token transaction, but they're getting this valuable feedback from people saying this is starting to work, it's starting to click. So where I'm at, we've got a large monorepo-based world, and for most of our code, and that's just not going to be good for quite a long time. And that's okay. We'll be some of the last in the train for that. I'm really looking at, from, again, putting my SRE hat back on, a lot of the DevOps movement pushed to this idea of infrastructure as code, with this idea that if it's code, anyone can write it. And that is just not, it has been a lie. That, yes, I have coded this really complex 2,000-line Terraform code, and somebody else's ability to contribute to that requires too much context on AWS in that. But this is the place, I think, where you can start to apply generative AI. I think there's a lot of cases where people could make self-service workflows for complex things that require a lot of context that AI is perfect for. And as far as I know, most DevOps engineers I've talked to are not excited about the idea of helping more people write Terraform PRs. We would really like it to let somebody else write it, but it's just not possible without tons of context. Yeah. So I think this is where you'll see generative AI in enterprise contexts really start to kick off, is how to contribute to self-service repositories, and especially DevOps repositories and Kubernetes configuration files. And
yeah, we've had the same journey with because again, we're just starting out. And it's been the Stack Overflow replacement has happened, and everyone definitely uses that. But we're looking at, with a large code base, we're still figuring out how to apply that. So I think we're still in that stage. We haven't even gotten there yet. And so it will be interesting to see how we can take a very large, many-year-old, million-line code base and apply generative AI to it that,
that does something useful.
That does something useful that actually that we can actually turn around and say, yes, this did fix something. So yeah.
I think a concrete example that just happened to us recently was we hit our 2 millionth flight, which was a really cool, we've hit 2 million flights. And for a startup, that felt really good. And we wanted to put a counter on our website. And so our head of software was like, this is the thing I want. I know that this would be a thing that would be catchy for people. And the head of marketing was like, yeah, we should get this number on our website. And that had to get passed down to 4 levels down to an individual team that would be the first person that would put in the right, GraphQL endpoint that would make this possible. And then there'd be or output to some file. Then there'd be another team on the website that did it. And that overall process took weeks. And I hope my boss doesn't actually see this, but the end result was that it took weeks, and we're like a hot, supposed to be moving fast startup. And it took weeks to just get this counter on a website. And everyone involved with it, this wasn't the most complex task that they were going to be given. They were supposed to be doing other stuff that was actually worthy of 10, 15 years of experience for these engineers. But instead, they're trying to get a counter to work, and they had to pivot and do this stuff. And I think that's where generative AI is perfect, where it's like, we didn't need it to be good code. We didn't need to do whatever. We just needed the person who had the idea to submit the pull request to do the thing. And we could have moved so much faster, but Yeah.
Well, and that's going to have a huge impact on just processes in general. If with an existing company, if this change is going to be made, it's this person that has to make it, but the person who decides to make it could actually eventually start making that change. How does that affect the landscape of, what the SDLC process is actually going to look like?
Yeah.
For various things. So
So I don't think of it as it's not going to write a better drone software. But man, that counter on the website would have been great if it was done faster.
That background color changed within them. Yeah.
The background counter. So I think that agentic AI model of the idea of I am going to spin up a coder instance and I am going to give it a task to perform and it will perform the task and I will check in on it later has so much potential for lower level work that isn't the thing that I actually want to spend my time on.
Yeah, exactly. And for those developers who are like, oh, I don't want AI to replace, I think developers would be like, yeah, I'd love for AI to be able to take away a lot of the little tiny disruptive tickets that I have to deal with all the time. If something else could handle that, let me focus on actual feature development as opposed to maybe bugs or something else.
One of my favorite, he's a software engineer, he's like, really, really good at his job. And he had this way of phrasing how he incorporates AI. It's great when you have a model of like a very highly productive, very senior engineer who's setting the trend. That's so much easier for adoption and modeling. So I take a lot of what he's said as something I should hold as well, which is he basically talked about it as he enables like the automatic code completion stuff when he's working on the more boring, normal, unit testy, other parts of his job. When he's working on the thing that is actually his specialty, the one thing where he has to use 100% of his brain, he turns it off and does the thing that a human is able to do very well. And that flow of like felt very natural to me as a concept that when you need to be a human the most and use your human brain the most, focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like turning off your phone and like putting it away, or like sometimes it's just a distraction. Like I've seen autocompletes that are just completely wrong. And if I'm like deep in flow working on something, trying to debug something, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's just, there's no point in like, so that's a really good example.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, because being able to focus on one thing, like you said, with your human brain, I don't want to be checking what the computer's doing at the same time because then I get derailed by what the autocomplete did, and then I'm out of it, and just so.
It's no different than in a lot of the languages that have like compilers. I can't think of a very specific example off the top of my head, but I remember like writing some stuff where I've typed in a single line of code and the compiler's like, whoa, everything in this file is trash now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
everything's red.
Yeah, everything's red. And you're like, shut up for a minute.
And then spiraling on why you can't fix that, why your edits don't fix it. And so I think, sometimes humans do know more. Sometimes,
Yeah, context switching is hard. It's just nice when things are smooth, and it's cool that you can offer these, that there are different ways of working to make it fit for your workflow and keep you in flow.